Take a look at the euro, the single currency early Asia Wednesday trading at 130.94 under pressure overnight. News that Moody's is placing Portugal's credit rating on review for a possible downgrade. The Portuguese government, for its part, says it'll do everything possible to counter the risks cited by Moody's. Fitch, another ratings agency, not providing any relief, saying it has also put Greece's ratings on review for a potential cut. However, we did, though, see a spike in the single currency earlier in yesterday's session. This is after Chinese Vice Premier Wang Qishan reportedly gave his assurance that Beijing would step up its support to stabilize Europe. No details provided, but the Financial Times in London, quoting a source, reports this may include buying bonds of countries embroiled in the sovereign debt crisis. For more, Marco Papic joins us, senior Eurasia analyst at Stratfor from Albuquerque over in New Mexico. And still with us around the desk here at the SGX is our guest host, Stephen Davies, CEO, Javelin Wealth Management. Marco, good to see you, and thank you for your time. How realistic is, do you think, this idea of China buying bond sovereign paper of some of these peripheral European countries?
Well, China doesn't need global instability right now, and a potential default in Eurozone would, of course, be catastrophic. It could potentially be another September 2008. And therefore, the comments by Deputy Premier Qishan really make sense. And he actually specifically said that China has already taken concrete measures. I believe that was a direct quote. And then that may mean that they have already been actually purchasing government bonds.
They've already been in it. What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, Marco, one of the questions that I've got is that we all work on the basis of the fact that a default within the Eurozone is both politically and psychologically impossible. But realistically, looking at the position of Ireland, Greece, possibly even Portugal, if they don't default, then they're consigning their entire populations to 20 years of grim life as they struggle to repay debt. What alternatives do they have?
Well, we at Stratfor have said since really early 2009 that Greece will most likely have to default. Right now, what the Eurozone and specifically what Berlin is trying to do here is really push off the problems until markets are, to an extent, market instability is abated, until such moment in perhaps 2013 when a controlled default will be possible without upsetting the rest of the Eurozone.
Interesting. So, I mean, will they call it a default, or will it be some sort of Euro speak saying that it's a managed restructuring or something of that sort of nature?
Well, you've had Berlin and specifically Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, already put this up there for discussion. In fact, her point that investors will have to share the burden is what precipitated the Irish crisis in particular. It was those comments that began the latest queasiness by investors. But investors have to be careful. And they have to be careful because what Berlin has shown us is that they're willing to throw out EU treaties, specifically the no bailout clause. And they may be willing to do so in the future if there's another existential threat, which means betting against Berlin and betting against Euro does have its risks as well.
All right. And Marco, you're worried about, meantime, political issues over in Italy, is that right?
Sorry? Yeah, political risk in Italy is also very, very high, and also you have political risk throughout Europe, including domestically in Germany. Specifically, we would like to point out for investors to keep an eye on the 4 Länder elections coming up between March and February. Last time Germany had a Länder, that's a German state, and they're very important. Last time it had an election was essentially around May, when North Rhine-Westphalia was up for an election, and Berlin actually dragged out the Greek bailout because it was trying to play the domestic game, trying to speak to 2 audiences, the investors on one side, and on the other side, its domestic audience. And that didn't work out well because the investors were concerned what Berlin would actually do.
All right, listen, Marco, very useful talking to you. Thank you for the time. Marco Papic, Stratfor over in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we're back with Stephen Davies, Javelin Wealth Management, coming up in